Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 344. Your weekly little get together. We talk about recent gaming news. As always, your host, Stephen Brown. Tonight, we have to talk about the elephant in the room that is Hogwarts Legacy. Seems that Titanfall game might have been canceled as Electronic Arts tries to pare back its expenses, and the Switch is selling way more than I think people even realize. It's now the third best selling console of all time. All that and more in just a moment, but first, I want everyone here to know that this is an audience interactive podcast. If you're watching here live at Twitch TV /GamePoints, or later over at any myriad of video hosting platforms, be it Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, etc., feel free to join in the conversation. If any questions, comments, concerns you might have, just try to keep them germane to the topics on hand. All right, let's go ahead and start off with this one right here. We gotta talk about Hogwarts Legacy. Now, I have not played the game yet. This game it technically comes out today if you pre-order the deluxe version of it. Friday for all the plebs. In reality, they say you get the early access to the game. Let's not be confused by that. What WB is saying is pay us more money and we'll let you play the game on the release date. This whole get the game early thing, that's a whole nother topic that I've gone off on before. That's not where the crux of this conversation is going to be about. The crux of this conversation is going to be about the fact that there seems to be a whole bunch of people who have a vested interest in seeing this game fail due to perceived slights that Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling might have made against the trans community. What she said exactly that really caused such a hubbub, I can't be shown other than the most anodyne of opinions that someone might have. But let's say for argument, let's say for argument that she offended people in some way. As such, there have been a myriad of online activists trying to get the game blacklisted from coverage, calling people horrendous things for when they take a look at it. We recently had the story of Limited Run Games' community manager getting ousted simply because someone took umbrage of her saying the game looks good. And then that person turned an internet mob upon them, eventually getting them fired from Limited Run Games. By the way, a company you still shouldn't be doing business with. And then, after all the hubbub, all the wishing that this game is going to fail and collapse and justify our hatred to this woman who, once again, no one can really still point out to me what one sentence she said that was like calling for horrible things to happen to trans people. The game finally releases to rave reviews. Currently sitting at a Metacritic at 85 or at 86 right now as of the time of this recording. Twitch had 1.2 million people watching it a few hours ago. That number has dropped down to about 40,000 or so at this recording right here. To be expected. It's getting later in the evening. I record this show at 8 p.m. my time, and that's on Pacific time, so we're already kind of late night. Hey there, Dry. Good to have you. You had your typical whiny outlets complaining about this game. You had a couple people who did review it while simultaneously put up the disclaimer of, we need to still condemn the actions of J.K. Rowling, etc. You had a couple places like GameStop, as far as I know, just straight up not review it. What today has proven, regardless if you're a Harry Potter fan or not, is that no one cares. These people, these obsessive nut jobs, were frothing at the mouth that someone would play a video game. By the way, they're currently going around hate rating streamers who are streaming the game. There's a website up where you can literally search to see if someone streamed Hogwarts Legacy. So you can unfollow them, harass them, harangue them until they go, I'm sorry, mea culpa, I didn't mean to play the wizard game. Oh God, I didn't know. There is this frothing and foaming of the mouth to try to make anyone even interested in this game feel horrible, like somehow they're leading to mass death and destruction. And they have been screaming for years about this. And what today has shown with how many people were actually playing it, how well it's getting reviewed, what early sales seem to suggest is that yes, we hear you and we don't fucking care. We don't need to kowtow to the forever offended anymore. We can stand up and go, fuck off. We're enjoying the cool blah blah wizard game where we're zapping people left and right. I don't even have an interest in Harry Potter. But these people have driven me to the point with their non-stop bitching about it where I'm going to probably pick this up Friday just to take a look at it. Like, my interest has been piqued. Furthermore, whenever someone tells me that I can't do something, I am going to do that thing specifically to spite you. So I'll be streaming this game sometime next week. I don't need to do it today. There is there is a bit of a white pill moment here where they threw everything they could at trying to yeet this game from existence. And not only did that fail, but it looks like it's going to be successful. And I say this as a person who has no vested interest in Harry Potter, who has no real interest in playing this game other than just to see it, because apparently, well, I don't want to say other than, because there's also this, 100% agree, there's the spite angle involved in here too. But apparently it's just a solid game, regardless if you're a fan of the franchise or not. So now I have to take a look at it. And this game wouldn't have even crossed my radar if it wasn't for the Streisand effect. We all know what the Streisand effect is. If people weren't gnashing their teeth over this goddamn game here, I wouldn't give it a second look. And I think that somewhere in some back room at WB and in many other sites, don't get me wrong, someone is crunching numbers and someone is doing the math to find out how many more copies of this game is going to sell, not because it got good reviews, not because it's Harry Potter, but because people want to clap back at the forever outraged brigade. Someone's doing that math, and I'm willing to bet it's higher than people think. And once businesses start realizing that, that is going to have a knock-on effect of more and more companies looking at these cry bullies, these non-stop whiners, and targeting them, not for sales, but to start farming outrage. To start farming that victimhood, so that way people will also buy their games to shut them up as well. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Someone is doing the math somewhere to see if it's going to be worth it or not. And you have a couple of these websites just harumphing. You have some of them whining about how they didn't get review code for the game. Well, one, if it's already clear that you're not going to review the game, I don't like using the word objectively, let's say fair here, fairly, then why would they provide you a review code? One, you're not entitled to review code to begin with. No one is entitled to review code. Two, you shouldn't even really be dealing with access to games to begin with, because it immediately taints your viewpoint on it. Now, yes, I say this as someone who gets codes free to play on Twitch streams all the time. I disclose this stuff, and I'm not reviewing those games. And three, if people are coming to your website because of the access that you have, and not because of your personality or what you actually bring to the table, your business model is flawed, and you're not long for this world to begin with. And then you had a bunch of other podcasts, and not podcasts, Yeah, some podcasts and sites do that weird social justicey version of the Catholic indulgence, where they say we're reviewing the game, but we're also making a donation to the Trevor Project, or we're making a donation to insert your favorite group de jour here. And that is also just weak. I have no problem if you want to make donations to these places. But when you're guilted into making a donation under the aspects of, oh God, please don't hurt me for playing the wizard game. I just wanted to review it. Grow a fucking spine. And it seems like people have. Because as I have to remind people all the time, Twitter is not real life. Twitter is where the dredges and the extremes go to bitch. And it rewards the loudest and most extreme of viewpoints that lack all nuance. So of course it's going to sound like the entire world might be against you, and how dare you exist for playing the wizard game. Notice they won't even say the name Hogwarts Legacy, because to them it is like Voldemort. They need to read another goddamn book. And the gaming community collectively stood up and said, shut up. Let me go be a wizard. And this is amazing. This is great. I am so ecstatic to see this overly entitled, overly empowered, non-stop victimhood grabbing group of people get slapped around. The Schadenfreude is delicious. And hopefully, as things like this continue to going on and on and on, more and more individuals, streamers, outlets, developers, publishers, media entities, etc. realize they don't have to cater to these whiny assholes any longer. That is not to say that you need to go out of your way to like harass these people or try to do horrible shit to them. They have horrible shit that happens all the time. We all do. We don't need to add to that misery. But we also don't need to bend over backwards to accommodate people that will never, ever be happy. And no, I'm not talking about the community as a whole. I'm talking about individual specific jackasses. You all know who they are. Because it turns out communities aren't one hive mind. They're not. They are made up of a bunch of individuals who all think many, many different things. Don't target communities. Target the assholes. In fact, I shouldn't even say target them, because that sounds bad, but you know what I'm saying. We can live without them. We don't have to do what they say. And the success of this game is a collective fuck you to them. And it's only going to get better from here. And if that's not a white pill, I don't know what. You don't have to accept that they're going to win. They might. But it's not a given that they will. And seeing little victories like this is awesome. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about the evil wizard game Hogwarts Legacy down in the comments below. I'd be very interested in seeing what other people's opinions are. Keep them civil. On both sides. I think it's very clear what side I fall on this. But there's no need to get nasty. Anyways. Moving on to the other news of the week. Let's go ahead and start right here with something that kind of breaks my heart just a little bit. This is via Bloomberg. Seems like EA axed a secret Apex Legends / Titanfall game that was in development. Now, you're going to be seeing more and more of these kinds of stories come out throughout the years, throughout the months, as publishers and developers tighten their belts for the upcoming economic malaise that's going to be hitting 2023. Thus the layoffs, thus the cancellations, and thus the scrapping of projects that may have just started to get off the ground but weren't going to be huge blockbusters. Sorry. One second. To the article from Bloomberg. Like EA canceled a game based on the popular Apex Legends and Titanfall franchises, according to 3 people familiar with the matter. The game, which hadn't been publicly announced, was in production at EA developer Respawn Entertainment. On Tuesday, EA, one of the world's biggest video game publishers, gave a disappointing outlook for revenue in the current quarter. The company said it was canceling Apex Legends mobile game, as well as the mobile version of Battlefield and Shuttered Industrial Toys, the studio behind it. EA also delayed the highly anticipated Star Wars Jedi Survival, another title of development at Respawn. Management informed the Unnamed Games team of about 50 people that EA will try to find positions for them within the company. Anyone who can't be placed will be given a severance package and laid off, according to people familiar with the matter who refused to speak anonymously because they were not who asked to speak anonymously because they were not authorized to speak to the press. An EA spokesperson declined to comment. The canceled project, codenamed TFL, or Titanfall Legends, was a single-player game set in the universe shared by Apex Legends and Titanfall games. It was directed by veteran designer Mohamed Lavi until he left the company in early 2020. Although the game had been advertised, EA hinted at it several times. So for those of you hoping for Titanfall 3 or even maybe an Apex single-player story mode, that ain't going to happen, at least anytime soon. This should be expected. I hate saying that. Anything that is not going to be a guaranteed hit, so your Grand Theft Autos or your already established franchises, are going to get the axe. You're going to see a lot of new IPs that might have been announced just quietly go poof. You won't even hear the light of day on many of them, as these projects are going to get shuffled around and we're all going back to basics as the economy gets worse and worse and worse. It sucks. It's a shame. I would love to have seen another Titanfall game, or maybe at least give some context and a single-player story to what's going on in Apex Legends, but this is how things are going to be for the next at least year, if not a little bit longer, as we enter that malaise. So don't be surprised when you hear of more projects getting canceled, like this next story alludes to as well. This is via GameStop, or GameSpot rather, not GameStop. GameStop's the retailer, which I'm still surprised exists. To the article itself. The Coalition has reportedly canceled 2 games. One a smaller non-Gears of War game, the second a mystery game. The studio's next game would be reportedly Gears 6. As I've talked about the past few weeks, there is something fundamentally broken at Microsoft right now under all their game studios, and this is that return to basics that I was talking about. No risk-taking. Nothing new. Go back and make another Gears. We need hits. There'll be some new things, I'm sure, but the scale and breadth of them will be massively held down or eliminated. But yeah, we need asses in seats cranking out things that we know are going to sell. Gears 6. At Ubisoft, there are rumors of 2 new Far Cries coming up. Expect EA to possibly try to revive Battlefield again. Tried and true IPs will be getting the next sequel. Greenlighted and expedited to come out even faster. They were already going to make them to begin with, let's be real here, but they're going to be focusing more on them even than before. Back to the article. According to Giant Bomb's Jeff Grubb, the Matrix demo that the Coalition worked on with Epic Games is not the smaller project. They said Grubb explained. That was a separate thing, but it does seem like they feel, well, we're up to speed because we worked on that, and so they canceled the smaller project as well as another project. He continues on. This all reflected in the layoffs that happened at Microsoft, which did hit the Coalition a little bit, but the studio is now going to be moving on fully to Gear 6. Microsoft recently laid off 10,000 people last month, impacting 343 industries, Bethesda, the Coalition, and other Xbox teams. There was an interesting, another Gears game. Yeah, another Gears game. Gears 5 apparently was pretty solid. I haven't played since the 3rd one. I take that back. I played that Gears Tactics game, which was excellent, I might add. But I hadn't played Gears 4, hadn't played Gears 5, didn't play the, What was the Gears of War game that had Baird as the main character? Didn't play that one either. I am very disconnected from that franchise at this point. I would like to see them do kind of like a Gears collection, like Master Chief collection. That could be interesting to revisit. I remember liking the Gears of War games. They were solid. They were solid. But this is what I'm talking about. You're going to be getting entry number 6, 7, 8, 9 of all of your franchises as they're going to be going. We know this makes money. Make this. Companies are going to be very risk adverse, and the industry already was risk reverse with budgets spiraling out of control to begin with. So it's only going to be getting doubly more so. So expect to see a lot of the same stuff over the next few years. Because remember, this takes time to whittle through. They're going to be going back to the I don't say back to the drawing board. They're going to be going back with establishment stuff, and that's going to take 3 or 4 years to make. So for the next 3 or 4 years of games, they're going to look very similar to the past few decades with very little risk taking, in my opinion. That said, you will still have some stuff coming out, such as Ghost Story Games' upcoming Judas, although that might not see the light of day until March 2025. This is via IGN, and this headline is a little bit clickbaity. I will, not really the term, not clickbaity, but misleading. Because it's not saying that Judas is coming out in 2025. It's just saying the game is expected to be here by 2025. It could be the end of 2023. Could be sometime in 24. Or it could be delayed beyond that. As we know, video games do get delayed. Anyways, to the article itself. We got our first real look at the next game from BioShock creator Ken Levine at the Game Awards last December, and according to Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick, we'll actually get to play for itself sometime before the end of March 2025. This comes from Take-Two's quarterly earnings report, which outlines that it has a total of 87 games planned for release between now and fiscal 2025, which ends at the end of March 2025. Speaking to IGN ahead of the earnings release, the writer of the article asked Zelnick if Judas was included on that 87 number, and he said yes. Well, yeah. However, for some of you who might be thinking, well, wait a minute, I thought you just said that new IP is going to be kind of dead and they're not really going to be focusing on it. Well, Judas has been in development since BioShock Infinite essentially ended. It has been roughly in a development hell, rumored to be development hell. Could just be a very small team working on a very huge project for many, many years now. That's one hell of a sunken cost just to cancel it out the gate. Plus, it is Ken Levine. He does have a reputation, and what he touches tends to sell very well. So Take-Two could be in the mindset of like, whatever this guy wants, give it to him. As long as it takes, don't worry about it. Not many developers get to do that. That is a very small list of developers, actually. You have maybe Neil Druckmann and Bruce Daly, maybe Amy Hideo Kojima for certain, who will fall into that category. Not counting of the Nintendo people. 1 second. Still get that little bit of a cough there. Watermelon, good to have you. Cool. I was going somewhere with this rant, but I think I said it already about how while this might say March 2025, it is a little ambiguous. We don't know. This could be end of this year. It could be next year. Hell, it could be 2026, 2027. Because games do get delayed, and Levine takes a long time with this stuff. But supposedly 2025. We'll see. Moving on, once again, on the topic of established IP is going to be what companies are focusing on for the next couple of years. Santa Monica Studios announced that God of War Ragnarok, which only released a few weeks ago, a couple months ago to a few weeks ago, sold through 11 million copies. That is an obscene number when it comes to video games. That is huge. Massive numbers for a franchise that's been around for a while, but has been doing very, very well. God of War Ragnarok selling 11 million copies essentially assures that there'll be another God of War. Now, I know that Santa Monica has, and oh my god, I can't remember who makes it off the top of my head anymore. No, I'm upset I can't remember his name. Cory Barlog. Have openly said, hey, this is the end of the Norse arc. We are done. But notice they don't say the end of God of War. They just said the end of the Norse arc. So of course there's going to be another God of War. I won't spoil how this game ends, but it does open itself to a whole bunch of ways it could go. There are a bunch of threads that can be followed through if it wanted to keep going on. And there's no way in hell Sony is going to pass up on a franchise, making another game in the franchise that sold 11 million copies already. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, there were a lot of characters introduced in God of War Ragnarok that can easily carry over into another game. Third is one of them, for sure. I got chat saying Kratos is going to go beat the shit out of Jesus and God. So maybe not that, but you can definitely explore like Celtic mythology, Egyptian mythology, Japanese, China. You can go a lot of places. African mythology, Native American mythology. There's a whole bunch of gods out there that can get their asses whooped. And there is one very specific plot point that I'm thinking of. Like I said, I don't want to get into it here because I don't want to spoil the game. There's one specific plot point that I'm thinking of about how the game ends and someone goes on a journey. You can easily just pick it up from there. So I'm sure that you will see another God of War. It might go away for 3 or 4 years before we hear from it again, but they are going to come back to this franchise. This is not the last you've seen of Kratos and Atreus. It's just not. However, when it comes to things you might have seen the last of, seems like Back 4 Blood is wrapping up. This is Turtle Rock's follow-up to the excellent Left 4 Dead, and although the game never really quite captured that same audience and zeitgeist that Left 4 Dead did, it was all right. It wasn't bad, but it was, in my opinion, extremely hollowed by its odd little card system. Well, it seems like Turtle Rock is wrapping up any active development of this game and moving on. They're not shutting the game down, but they won't be releasing any new content for it. To the blog post here. This phase of the war against the Ridden now comes to a close. Turtle Rock Studios is actually pretty small for a studio making AAA games. While we don't have quite enough folks to continue working on Back 4 Blood content while we spin up another game, yes, another game, given this is time for us to put our heads down, get back in the lab, and get work on the next big thing. They're essentially saying, hey, we're no longer making any new seasons, new content, no expansions for Back 4 Blood. What is out there is now feature complete. So while the game itself will still be running, we're moving on. To me, that kind of insinuates, I know they're saying they're a small team and they work on something new, but once again, this game was doing well, they would continue to make content for it. I think actively right now, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think there are actively more people playing Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 than Back 4 Blood, which has to sting. So hopefully Total Rug goes back to the grindstone, gets rid of what doesn't work, and gives us something in the vein of Left 4 Dead that could actually be something that we will be playing 10 years after it releases. Unlike Back 4 Blood, which will be forgotten. And I don't even mean that like in a snide way. I actively forget that Back 4 Blood exists as a video game. But I don't forget Left 4 Dead exists as a video game. That says something. So hopefully Total Rock can find the magic they once had. Moving on, there seems to be only one thing that's doing well right now, and it shouldn't necessarily come as too much of a surprise. The Nintendo Switch. So if you're expecting another Nintendo Switch anytime soon, probably not, especially given these numbers. Going to Forbes here for this one. This and the links to all of our articles, by the way, will be provided in the description down below or over on our Discord page, which you can join if you want to be a part of the greater GamePoints community. To the article here itself, Nintendo Switch passes PS4 and Game Boy to become a third best-selling console ever. God damn, that's a lot. If you've been wondering why Nintendo has not yet teased the next generation console or really upgraded the Switch's power in any meaningful way since 2017, the answer is pretty plain. They absolutely have no need to. A new batch of sales numbers are in, and they put the Switch up to 122.5 million sales, with the latest few million units being moved enough to pass the PlayStation 4, which had 117, and the Game Boy Original Color, which had 118, to become the third best-selling console of all time. The only things beating it right now are Nintendo's own DS at 154 million and PlayStation 2 at 155. The Switch will be very hard-pressed to make up 30 4 million sales to overtake the DS, especially given that it's already, 6 years old at this point. And it is starting to show its age, by the way. The Switch is starting to show its age. However, once again, remember the overall topic of the show. We're going to be sticking with basics here, folks, for a while. Any plans for PlayStation 6, whatever the new Xbox is, they've been most assuredly delayed. As we batten down the hatches. Nintendo, in the meantime, is still selling Switches hand over fist, so they have no need to make a new Switch. If they do, it might be a half-step console, maybe like a Switch Pro equivalent, but even then, I doubt it. You're going to see the Switch still run at its current capabilities for quite a while. And I think the biggest judge on this is going to be Tears of the Kingdom, that upcoming Zelda game. If that Zelda game still runs perfectly fine on the Switch, Nintendo definitely has no incentive at all to upgrade to a newer console. Outdoor Medic, good to have you. Doing well, thank you. A little bit of a dry throat, but feeling significantly better than I was over the past few days. So while this is good news for Nintendo, it might be bad news for some people who were hoping that they would be forced into pushing out a Switch 2 or whatever the next successor console was to it. Because they don't need to. Why? Why would they disrupt a system that just now recently sold multiple millions to surpass PlayStation 4? There's no point to doing it. And with that new Zelda game on the horizon, you can bet they're going to sell a lot more. The Switch is also unique in that the attachment rate, that percentage of people who buy games for the Switch is very high. I don't have the raw numbers in front of me. I think for consoles, it's something like 3 or 4 games per console. But when it comes to the Switch, I think it's like 8 or 9 first-party titles. I used to have the numbers memorized. I need to go track those down again. But the Switch has a very high attachment rate. People who buy Switches buy games for that thing nonstop. In numbers way more than they do the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox consoles. Take a look, chat here. Outdoor Medic says, Nintendo doesn't have a need to update. They have consistently put out lower grade consoles with unique games. Xbox and PlayStation have fought over what makes games more up to date instead of the games themselves. Yeah. Nintendo has no need to push the cutting edge of technology, and the sales numbers clearly show that. One day, bigger publishers and bigger platform holders will realize that as well. That it doesn't matter how good your game looks, if it plays like shit, no one cares. They just don't. Watermelon Chat says, I did the big brain strat with my physical games where I sell the games that I don't play and use that money to buy the new ones for the Switch. Yeah, there is also something. I wonder if. No, never mind. I'm not even going to go down a path I was going to because I immediately figured out I was wrong to begin with. So, whatever I was about to say, don't worry about it. Breath of the Wild was great, but is nowhere near what other games are out there graphically. Yes, I absolutely agree. Breath of the Wild. So I can't stand Breath of the Wild myself, but my reason for hating Breath of the Wild is solely on weapon degradation. If it didn't have weapon degradation, I think I would love that game. But the point still stands. It wasn't nearly as graphically intense as many other games out there, but still looked gorgeous. You could do a lot on that goddamn console, although it is shown its age. If you played Xenoblade Chronicles 3, that thing's really chugging now at this point. I have one more big story and a couple smaller things that we need to get through before I wrap things up here. So let's go ahead and move on to this article here from Video Game Chronicle. Take-Two planning layoffs as part of a $50 million cost reduction program. Take-Two looks to be set. Let me start over. Take-Two looks set to make layoffs as part of a $50 million cost reduction program announced on Monday. The Rockstar and 2K Games owner revealed the plan as part of its earnings result for the fiscal third quarter, which ended December 2022. In light of the current backdrop and Take-Two's strong commitment to efficiency, the company is implementing a cost reduction program expected to yield over $50 million annual savings, which it will begin to realize in the fourth quarter of its fiscal year of 2023, they said. The program includes personnel, processes, infrastructure, and other areas, and will primarily focus on corporate and publishing functions. Now, they did ended up, Strauss Zelnick, the CEO of Take-Two, did respond to GameIndustry.biz with an update here saying the following. We continue to build and support our development teams where we have overhead, and we will have to be very diligent about looking at the overhead. We don't expect any kind of broad-based reduction in force. We are going department by department and trying to drive efficiency. In other words, they have the threat of layoffs over your head. You might not necessarily get laid off, but if we think you're not being efficient, you're probably going to get in the axe. What that translates into, who the hell knows? This could be as low as, like, say, 10 or 20 layoffs, or it could be as high as what... It's not going to be as high as what Microsoft did with 10,000, but it could be in the hundreds. We don't know. So it sucks to be working at Take-Two with that cloud hanging over your head. I have no issues with layoffs as a general rule. I get why they happen. What I have issues with is how they're done. And this bullshit idea of like, hey, layoffs might be coming. That sort of Damocles over your head fucks with people. Just tell them, hey, we're cutting this department. These people are gone, effective today. Don't do this like, oh, we're going to call you in one by one and announce it. Just rip the fucking Band-Aid off. Stop dancing around it. I hate that. I hate that so much. Bothers the hell out of me. Back to the article itself. Once again, Take-Two spokesman saying the following. This cost reduction program is in addition to the over $100 million cost of synergies within the company expects to realize some combination of Zynga, and is not expected to impact the delivery of its robust multi-year pipeline. Take-Two believes these actions, combined with focus on profitability growing at scale, will enable the company to maximize its margins as it delivers on the anticipated growth trajectory over the next few years. That's a lot of techno bumble for saying, hey, we're cutting costs. It is what it is. As I have been saying the past few weeks, layoffs are going to be the norm for the next few months, and they are going to be continuing. And even more devastating, some companies are going to have multiple rounds of layoffs. So, our best goes out to anyone affected by this, of course. And if you're currently working in the games industry, this might sound a little bit callous, but I would recommend start getting your resumes in order. Because there's a good chance the specter of layoffs is going to come visiting you as well. And if you do happen to get the short straw, it's better to be prepared than to be caught unawares on this. And that's all I got to say about that. Take a quick look at chat here real fast. The Switch might have an advantage of being a family-oriented console, 100%. Not only that, but its handheld capability means that households will at times have multiple Switches. It's relatively cheap, and you can take it on the go. So if you have like your typical family, mom, dad, and 2 kids, mom and dad who might be gamers will have their Switch, and then each kid might have a Switch of their own as well. So that certainly helps drive those numbers up. Are we gaming tonight? Going over articles. Tuesdays are the podcasts there, Outdoor Medic. Always try to at least keep abreast on what gaming news is. Papa Stalin saying, had to watch an entire 5-minute Taco Bell ad before watching. Yeah, welcome to Twitch. Welcome to the modern day Twitch right now. The ads are going to get longer and more egregious as everyone, and not just Twitch, I don't want to single out Twitch on its own, but as everyone tries to tighten up their belts and try to squeeze every dollar out of you that they can right now. Because bad things are coming. Everyone can feel it. All these companies are adjusting their earnings down for this year. It's going to get real bad. All right, that does it for the news. We have one delay of note that I want to bring up here. This is from Frictional Games, saying that Amnesia the Bunker has been delayed till May 16th. Amnesia, known for being one of the scarier horror games coming out over the past decade or so, has had a couple sequels. None of them quite as good as that first one, although Machine for Pigs does come close. The Bunker is their upcoming next one in that franchise. It was supposed to come out, I want to say, in March. Well, now it seems to have been delayed to May 16th. They openly say it's because they're a small studio, that the winter has been really hard on them as far as development goes, and hey, we just need more time without driving ourselves insane with crunch. More power to you. Take your time. No issue. We also have one upcoming event, and I will be streaming this tomorrow. So you can join me live at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to watch the Nintendo Direct. Nintendo loves to drop announcements for these the day before they come out, and, well, this one's no exception. Tune in tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, February 8th, for a Nintendo Direct live stream featuring roughly 40 minutes of information, mostly focused on Nintendo Switch games launching in the first half of 2023. So, expect Zelda to be on here. That's supposed to be launching in the first half of 2023. I fully expect them to do a stealth release of Advance Wars reboot or reboot camp or whatever the hell that was called. You know, Advance Wars 1 and 2. It got delayed because suddenly Russia decided that they weren't big enough and invaded Ukraine. And then they delayed that because they didn't want to release a war game while an actual war was happening. But that war seems to be dragging on longer than I think people thought it was, and they do have to release it eventually. Which is why I think this is just going to stealth drop tomorrow. They'll do that thing where it's like available now. My opinion, my guess, I don't know that for certain, but I get the feeling that's going to be the case. What else might come out for this Nintendo Direct? Who the hell knows? Dare we hope for any news on Metroid Prime 4? Maybe a Metroid collection of some kind. I think that would be awesome. Maybe a little bit more information on Pikmin 4 is coming around the corner. Who knows? They might even surprise us with a new Star Fox game, or maybe even something related to F-Zero. Either way, it is a sizable Direct. 40 minutes is a big chunky boy, and they're not necessarily saying anything specific. So I do expect some surprises. Nintendo tends to be very direct with their Directs, and they'll usually tell you exactly what's in it. So when they're a little bit vague by just saying, hey, we're going to talk about what's coming out the first half of this year, mostly, which does imply that there'll be some stuff for later on as well, there's a good chance it's going to be a good show. And I will stream it tomorrow here at Twitch TV/GamePoints. We'll be playing something. I don't know what yet. If I can get Hogwarts Legacy early, I'll fucking play it, because at this point, I just want to rub it in faces of people who are trying to keep people from enjoying that game. But either way, whatever we're playing, we will stop at 2, roll over to the Direct, watch the Direct, and then maybe continue from there. And to be clear, I'm probably going to finish up Jedi Survivor, or maybe Industries of Titan, which just had its full release. But that's tomorrow's decision. But yes, we will be looking at that Nintendo Direct. And I think that does it for the news, which means that does it for the show as well. Thank you all for showing up. This has been GamePoints episode 344. I do stream this live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at Twitch TV/GamePoints. So feel free to come join the conversation like so many of you do. Papa Stalin, Watermelon, Outdoor Medic, Tavara, I think I saw you floating around here, Captain Typo, Jiraiya, and everyone else happens to be coming by. Thank you. If you can't show up live, however, we do put copies of this show up over on our Discord server. Link down there somewhere, depending on where you're watching at. And it's put up at a myriad of video hosting platforms, be it Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, etc. Regardless of where you're watching, if you like what you saw here, you know what streamers want. Likes, picks, follows, subs, shares, all that good stuff. And as I mentioned before, I do stream throughout the week as well, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at various times throughout the day. Feel free to drop on by and say hey. Anyways, until next week, this has been GamePoints. Y'all stay safe, take care, and I'm out of here.